Chapter 9, Section 4 is about factoring to solve your quadratic equations. This is a two-part lesson, but by the end we should be able to solve quadratic functions just by using factoring. And there's a few different ways that you can do that. Okay, the first one gives you this property called the zero product property. Remember that product means multiplication. So what this is saying is that if I multiply any two numbers together, they're just calling them A and B, any two numbers or any two binomials and they equal 0, then one of them has to also equal 0. The only way to get a 0 as an answer is to multiply something by 0. So if they give us x plus 3 times x plus 2, then one of them, either x plus 3 has to equal 0 or x plus 2 has to equal 0. So what we're going to do with that down here is we're going to take each one of them and set them equal to 0 and solve. So if they give us, in problem 1 here, 4t plus 1 times t minus 2 equals 0, I'm going to separate them using the zero product property and set each binomial equal to 0 separately. So I will have 4t plus 1 equals 0, and to solve that, first thing I need to do is subtract 1, leaving me with 4t minus 1, and then divide by 40 at t alone. So my t will either be negative 41, or on this side I just need to add 2, so my t could also be 2. That's how we use that zero product property. So let's try that back here and find the solutions. I'll do A and B with you, then you can pause and try C and D on your own. Okay, so A, I have to set each one equal to 0, so x plus 1 equals 0, and when I solve that, I just subtract 1, and I find out that x is equal to negative 1. The other one says x minus 5 equals 0, so to solve that, I add 5, and find out that x is equal to 5. So my two possible answers are x is equal to negative 1 and 5. Okay, in letter B, I have 2x plus 3 equals 0. A little bit more steps, so I'm going to subtract 3, leaving me with 2x equals negative 3, and then divide by 2. Okay, so my x is equal to a negative 3 over 2. Okay, the second one says x minus 4, and we set that equal to 0. For that one, all I have to do is add 4, and I'll find out that x could also equal 4. All right, why don't you pause your video here and try doing C and D and find out what the solutions are for both C and D. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you solved both C and D. Letter C, you should have gotten y is equal to a negative 1/2, or y is equal to negative 14. And for D, you should have gotten that n is equal to 2/7, or n is equal to 4/5. Perfect. Okay, the second way is to solve by factoring. Okay, what are the solutions of x squared plus 8x plus 15? We have practiced factoring for so long, this should be easy at this point. So now we are looking to separate this into our two binomials. We know that to get x squared, we have to have an x times an x. And then we need to figure out what number multiplies to be 15 but adds to be 8, which happens to be 5 and 3. Okay, that's this step right here. Then we're going to set those equal to 0 using that zero product property that we had on the last two slides. I'm going to set x plus 3 equal to 0 and solve by subtracting 3, giving me x equals negative 3. And then x plus 5 equals 0, subtract 5, giving me x equals negative 5. So our solutions are negative 3 and negative 5, which is this A option in our multiple choice. Okay, so to solve by factoring, we're going to try that on this A and B, and then I'll let you work on C on your own. Okay, so for A, I know that I need an m times an m. And then I need to find a number that multiplies to be negative 14, but adds to be negative 5. In this case, I'm going to need a positive 7 and a negative 2. Okay, then I'm still not finished. I need to use that zero product property to take each one of these individually and set them equal to 0. So m minus 2 equals 0, which means I'll have to add 2 to both sides, and I'll find out that m is 2. Then I'm going to take my m plus 7 and set that equal to 0. And to get the m alone, I subtract 7, and I find out that m is equal to -7. So my two answers for that one are m equals 2 and m equals -7. Okay, letter B, I'm going to erase some of this so we have enough room. And switch up our colors. Okay, letter B, I know that I'm going to need a p in both binomial to get my p squared, and then a number that multiplies to be -20 but adds to be 1, since there's a 1 in front of that p. For that, I'm going to need a +5 times a -4. Then I'm going to use my zero product property and write out p minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to get that p alone. Find out that p is equal to 4. That's our first solution. And then p plus 5 equals 0. Subtract 5 to get our second solution of p equals -5. All right, why don't you pause it here and see if you can solve C. Remember that you may have to multiply 2 times 18 to find out what you're going to need to factor. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you did your A times C, which gave you 36. And so we know we need to multiply to be 36, but add to be -15, which is for us is going to be a 12 and a 3. We're going to need 2 negatives. So when I write this out the long way, it's going to be 2a squared minus 12a minus 3a plus 18. Okay, to factor, I can pull out a 2a on this side, leaving me with just a minus 6. And on this side, I can pull out a -3, leaving me with a minus 6. Okay, so what I'm going to be working with is 2a minus 3 times a minus 6. Those are what I have to set equal to 0. And I'm going to find out that my solutions are a is equal to 3/2 and a is equal to 6. All right, that's all that we're going to do for today. Your full assignment is on page 558, numbers 8 through 24 evens, 26 through 28, 36, and the lesson quiz. Just do what you can today with problems 1 and 2, and then we will finish it up with part 2.